They told us to focus on the first week of January, not because that's when Christians are weakest. Actually, it's when they're strongest, full of hope, covered in oil, armed with prophetic words from watch night service. That's when they're most dangerous to our operations. That's when their prayers carry the most weight. That's when heaven is listening most intently. No, we focused on the first week because that's when the entire year gets set. Think of it like a foundation. If we could crack the foundation in those 7 days, the entire structure would be vulnerable for the next 358 days, and we became experts at finding those cracks. My name is Chiamaka. I'm from Owerri, Imo State, Nigeria. For 16 years, I specialized in New Year prayer disruption. I monitored watch night services from the second heavens. I tracked midnight declarations with precision. I studied prayer patterns like a scientist studies data. I identified which Christians would have breakthrough years and which would struggle, all based on what happened in the first 7 days of January. I wasn't guessing. I wasn't assuming. I was operating from intelligence, cold, calculated, devastatingly accurate intelligence about how spiritual laws work and how most Christians unknowingly violate them during their most important prayer season. Today, I'm going to reveal the 3 hidden laws that determine whether your New Year prayers reach heaven or get trapped in the second heavens where we operated. These aren't theories. This is the exact intelligence I used. And when you understand these laws, your prayers become completely unstoppable. But before we begin, I need to tell you my story. Because you need to understand how I learned these laws, why they work, and what finally broke their power over my own life. I was initiated into the coven at 16 in 2004. My aunt, my mother's older sister, brought me in. She ran a successful textile business in Ariaria Market in Aba, and everyone said it was because she was shrewd, smart, good with money. They didn't know it was because every January she performed a ritual that locked in her favor for the entire year. Every single January for the past 12 years, she would disappear for 3 days between December 31st and January 3rd. Family thought she was taking inventory or meeting suppliers. She was actually legislating her year in the spirit realm. I was struggling in secondary school. Not academically, I was brilliant, top of my class in mathematics and English. My teachers said I had potential for university, but financially, my parents couldn't keep up with the fees, the uniforms, the books, the extra lessons that private schools require. And I was tired of being the smart girl in worn-out shoes, carrying patch bags, watching other girls my age with new everything while I had to borrow textbooks. My aunt pulled me aside after Christmas in 2004. We were at my grandmother's compound in Owerri for the holiday, extended family everywhere, noise, celebrations, but she found me alone under the mango tree reading a chemistry textbook I'd borrowed from school. "Chiamaka," she said, "I've been watching you. You have fire, you have intelligence, you have ambition, but you're wasting it fighting a system that will never favor you naturally. You can study for 20 years and still struggle. Or you can learn the real laws that govern success." "What do you mean?" I asked. "I mean, there are laws," she said, "spiritual laws that govern who prospers and who struggles. Most people don't know these laws exist, but those of us who do, we thrive every single year." She told me about a gathering, a women's meeting she called it, very exclusive, very powerful, held every year between December 28th and January 7th. "Come once," she said, "just observe. If you don't like it, you never come back. But if you do, I guarantee your education problems disappear forever." I went. The meeting was in a compound in Owerri, off Hospital Road, hidden behind high walls and thick vegetation. From the outside, it looked like any other abandoned colonial building. But inside, the main hall was immaculate, candles everywhere, but not the romantic kind. These were positioned with precision, creating geometric patterns on the floor. The air smelled of incense and something else I couldn't identify, something ancient and heavy. 32 women, different ages, from women in their 20s to women in their 60s. Different backgrounds, different tribes, but I could tell from their clothes, their jewelry, their bearing that all of them were successful, all composed, all carrying themselves like they knew something everyone else didn't, like they had access to information the rest of the world was begging for. The woman who led the meeting was called Mama Blessing. She was maybe 55, dressed in expensive George lace fabric worth at least 200,000 naira, gold jewelry that wasn't flashy but clearly expensive, speaking with the kind of authority that made everyone listen without her raising her voice. She didn't demand attention. She commanded it naturally. Welcome to the New Year Strategic Council, she said, her voice smooth, educated, but with an edge that made you pay attention. We gather at this time every year because we understand something most people don't. Most people think success is random. They think favor is luck. They think breakthrough is a matter of chance or God's mysterious will. But we know better. The spiritual realm operates on laws, precise, unchanging, predictable laws. And the most important law of all is the law of spiritual timing. She explained that time in the spirit realm isn't linear like we experience it. There are windows, she said, portals, moments when spiritual activity is exponentially more powerful than others. Like how electricity flows stronger through certain conductors, or how radio signals transmit clearer at certain frequencies, spiritual declarations carry different weights at different times. Think of it like planting season, she said, pacing slowly in front of us. A farmer doesn't plant anytime he feels like it. He plants during planting season. Why? Because the soil is ready, the rains are coming, the conditions are aligned. If he plants in the wrong season, even the best seeds won't grow. It's not about the quality of the seed, it's about alignment with natural laws. She paused, letting that sink in. Spiritual laws work the same way. There are seasons when heaven is more accessible, moments when declarations anchor deeper, times when the veil between natural and spiritual is thinner. And the most powerful window, she said, her voice dropping to almost a whisper but somehow still filling the room, is January 1st to January 7th. These 7 days set the trajectory of the entire year. Win these 7 days in the spirit realm and you win the year. Lose them and you fight uphill for the next 358 days. Then she said something that changed everything for me. Most Christians don't know this. They pray all year with the same intensity. They don't understand that some days carry 10 times, even 100 times the weight of others. They think prayer is prayer, anytime, anywhere, all the same. So while they're praying their regular prayers in August or November with no strategic focus, we're using the January window to lock in our agenda with surgical precision. We're legislating while they're hoping. We're anchoring while they're wishing. And by the time they realize they're struggling, it's too late. The year is already set. The foundation is already poured. And no amount of mid-year prayers can change what was established in the first 7 days. I was fascinated, not because I wanted to hurt anyone, but because it made sense. I'd watched my parents pray every single day of my life, yet struggle every single year. If there were laws that explained why, I wanted to know them. Mama Blessing looked at me. "You're new," she said. "Do you understand what we do here?" "You use spiritual laws," I said. "We participate in spiritual laws," she corrected. "There's a difference. Laws exist whether you know them or not. Gravity doesn't care if you believe in it. You fall anyway. Spiritual laws are the same. Most people are subject to them. We participate in them. That makes us powerful." That night, they taught us the first ritual, a midnight prayer, she called it. But it wasn't prayer like Christians do. It was declaration, claiming territory, setting atmospheres. Using the law of spiritual timing to anchor our intentions for the year, I performed it. And 3 days later, my school fees showed up. Anonymous donor, they said. Full scholarship for the rest of secondary school. I was hooked. Over the next 16 years, I became a specialist in New Year warfare. I studied the patterns. I learned how Christians prayed, how they declared, how they approached the new year, and I learned exactly how to disrupt it. But before I tell you what we did, you need to understand the 3 laws we exploited, because these laws are real. They operate whether you're using them for evil or for good, and when you align with them properly, your prayers become unstoppable. The first law is the law of spiritual timing. This law states that spiritual activity is exponentially more powerful during specific windows. Not every moment carries the same weight. Not every prayer hits with the same force. There are times when heaven is closer, when the veil is thinner, when declarations anchor deeper, and January 1st to January 7th is the strongest window of the entire year. Let me tell you why. In the spirit realm, every year operates like a book, and like any book, it has a first page. January 1st is the first page. Whatever gets written on that page sets the tone for every page that follows. We understood this in the coven. Christians didn't. Most Christians pray on January 1st because it feels right. It's tradition. It's symbolic. It's what everyone does. They see the new year as a fresh start, a clean slate, a chance to begin again. All of that is beautiful. All of that has merit. but they don't understand the spiritual mechanics behind it. They don't realize they're standing in a window of exponential power, and because they don't understand the mechanics, they pray generic prayers. God bless me this year. Let this be my year of breakthrough. I cancel every negativity. I declare favor. I claim success. These prayers aren't wrong, they're sincere. They're full of faith, but they're not anchored. They're not specific. They're not leveraging the full power of the timing. It's like having a microphone that amplifies your voice 100 times, but you're whispering instead of speaking clearly. The amplification is there, but you're not using it properly. Meanwhile, we in the coven were making surgical declarations. We weren't praying, we were legislating. We would say, I claim financial dominance in the textile market of eastern Nigeria. Every competitor's business slows, every door I approach opens, every supplier gives me priority, every customer prefers my products. This year belongs to me in this sector. Specific, detailed, territorial, claiming territories, setting atmospheric conditions, naming specific outcomes, identifying exact targets. And because we understood the law of spiritual timing, our declarations carried weight that lasted the entire year. We weren't hoping something good would happen. We were decreeing exactly what would happen and backing it with the power of the January window. Here's what most Christians don't know. When you pray during the January 1st to 7th window, you're not just praying for that day. You're setting the spiritual atmosphere for the entire year. It's like laying a foundation. Everything that comes after builds on what you establish in those 7 days. If you establish authority in those 7 days, you walk in authority all year. If you establish protection in those 7 days, you're covered all year. If you establish financial breakthrough in those 7 days, doors open all year. But if you miss those 7 days, or if you pray generic prayers without anchoring them, you spend the rest of the year fighting to establish what you could have said in 1 week. This is why we targeted the first week so heavily. We didn't need to fight Christians all year. We just needed to disrupt them in January, distract them, make them tired, confuse them, fill their minds with problems so they couldn't focus. And if we succeeded, the year was ours. I'll give you an example that still haunts me. In 2015, we identified a pastor in Owerri who was a major threat to our operations. His church was growing rapidly, from 200 members to over 1,000 in 18 months. His people were sharp, they knew how to pray, they understood spiritual warfare basics, they weren't the typical Sunday-only Christians we could easily manipulate, they fasted regularly, they did deliverance sessions, they taught their members about demonic attacks, and how to counter them. We couldn't attack him directly. He had too much covering, too many intercessors, too much anointing. Every assignment we sent bounced back. But we knew January was his vulnerable moment. Even the strongest Christians have to sleep. Even the sharpest warriors have moments of distraction. So we hit his finances on December 30th, not just a small inconvenience. We orchestrated a major attack. The church's main equipment truck broke down, requiring 150,000 naira in repairs. His personal car had engine failure, another 80,000 naira. Then his son got sick, hospital bills piling up. Then the church landlord suddenly demanded 3 months' rent upfront or threatened eviction, all in 3 days, December 30th to January 1st. The pastor spent January 1st to 4th scrambling, making emergency calls, borrowing money, negotiating with the landlord, running to the mechanic, sitting in the hospital, stressed, distracted, exhausted, his mind fragmented across 12 different problems. By the time he stabilized financially and tried to pray his New Year declarations, it was January 9th. He'd missed the entire window. He prayed powerfully. He declared with faith. He decreed breakthrough. He prophesied over his church. He was sincere. He was passionate. He was anointed. But he'd missed the window. It's like showing up to plant after the raining season has ended. The seeds are good, the farmer is skilled, but the conditions aren't aligned. That year, his church struggled. Attendance dropped from over 1,000 to 700 by June. Offerings were inconsistent, barely covering basic expenses. Key members left for other churches, citing no direction or lack of growth. His breakthrough programs flopped. His outreach events had poor turnout. He fought and fought, praying every single day, fasting every week, but he was fighting uphill. Because the foundation of the year had been set in chaos, not authority. The first week had been marked by distraction, not declaration, and no amount of mid-year intensity could override what the January window had established. By 2016, he knew better. Someone, maybe another pastor or a prophet, had taught him about spiritual timing. He started his New Year prayers on December 28th. Not December 31st, not January 1st, December 28th. He gathered his core intercessors, maybe 20 people, and they began a prayer chain that ran continuously from December 28th through January 7th. They took shifts, 6 a.m. to noon, noon to 6 p.m., 6 p.m. to midnight, midnight to 6 a.m. For 10 straight days, that church never stopped praying. They declared, they decreed, they claimed territories, they set atmospheres, they bound assignments, they released breakthrough. They anchored their declarations deep with fasting, with oil, with communion, with prophetic acts. We tried to attack. We sent the same financial pressure we'd used the year before. It bounced back. The money showed up before the bills came due. We sent sickness. Their intercessors prayed it away immediately. We sent confusion. They had clarity. We sent division. They had unity. We couldn't penetrate, not even a crack. His year was locked. The foundation was solid. The atmosphere was set. And there was nothing we could do about it. That year, his church exploded. Attendance hit 1,500 by March, 2,000 by June. They had to find a bigger building. Offerings tripled. Miracles multiplied. People got healed. Marriages got restored. Businesses got favor. The whole church entered a season of blessing that seemed unstoppable, and it was unstoppable because it was built on the right foundation, set in the right season, anchored in the right window. That's the law of spiritual timing in action. Same pastor, same church, same city, different approach, different result. Now here's what you need to understand. This law doesn't just apply to January. There are other windows throughout the year. But January is the strongest. It's the master key. Get January right, and even if you stumble later, the foundation holds. So how do you use this law properly? 3 things. First, recognize the window. Don't just pray on January 1st because it's tradition. Pray because you're standing in a portal. You're in a moment of exponential power. Treat it like the sacred window it is. Second, pray strategically. Don't pray generic prayers. Make specific declarations, name areas, claim territories, set atmospheres. You're not just praying for blessing, you're legislating the tone of your year. Third, sustain it through January 7th. Don't stop on January 1st. The window is 7 days. Keep the fire burning, keep the declarations going, keep the focus sharp. If you do this, you're not just hoping for a good year, you're establishing it. But timing alone isn't enough. Because you can pray at the right time with the wrong approach, which brings us to the second law. The second law is the law of declaration anchoring. This law states that declarations must be anchored to become effective. It's not enough to speak words. The words must attach to something solid. Otherwise, they float, they fade, they evaporate. And 90% of Christians make declarations that don't anchor. Let me explain. In the coven, we learned that words spoken in the spirit realm are like seeds. But seeds don't grow in midair. They need soil. They need something to root into. When Christians make New Year declarations without anchoring them, it's like throwing seeds on concrete. The seeds are good. The intent is sincere, but there's nothing for them to grip. So the declarations fade within weeks. I saw this every single year. Christians would come to watch night service on December 31st, full of fire, full of faith. They would declare, "This is my year of breakthrough. This is my year of promotion. This is my year of financial abundance." Powerful words, beautiful words. But then they'd go home and do nothing to anchor them. They wouldn't fast. They wouldn't pray consistently. They wouldn't adjust their habits. They wouldn't align their actions. The declarations just floated in the atmosphere, unattached. And by mid-January, the fire was gone. By February, they'd forgotten what they declared. By March, they were back to complaining about the same problems they declared victory over. This is exactly what we counted on. We didn't need to fight their declarations directly. We just waited. Because we knew unanchored declarations self-destruct. But when a Christian anchored their declarations, everything changed. I'll tell you what I mean by anchoring. There are 3 anchors. The first anchor is sacrifice. Sacrifice shows heaven you're serious. It's not just words floating in the air. It's investment. It's cost. You're putting something on the altar to back up what you're declaring. You're saying, "I'm not just hoping for this. I'm not just wishing for this. I'm willing to pay a price for this." This could be fasting, not the trendy Daniel fast where you just avoid meat and sugar. I'm talking about real fasting, water only, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., 7 days, 14 days, 21 days, the kind of fast that makes your flesh uncomfortable, the kind that requires discipline, the kind that costs you something. This could be giving, not just your regular tithe. I'm talking about seed offerings, first fruits. Sacrificial giving that actually hurts a little bit, giving when it doesn't make sense financially, giving before you see the breakthrough. That's sacrifice. This could be time, not just adding prayer to your routine. I'm talking about waking up at 4 a.m. when your body wants to sleep. I'm talking about canceling social plans to pray. I'm talking about prioritizing God's presence over your comfort. That's sacrifice. When we saw a Christian making New Year declarations backed by sacrificial fasting, we knew they were dangerous. Those declarations didn't float in the atmosphere like vapor. They sank deep into the spiritual realm like anchors. They became immovable. They had weight, they had substance, they had backing. I'll tell you exactly what we looked for. We could tell within 72 hours whether a Christian's declaration was anchored with sacrifice or not. How? By watching what they did after December 31st. Did they start fasting on January 1st? Or did they just pray quick prayers and go back to their regular eating schedule? Did they give a significant offering? Or did they hold their money tight, declaring breakthrough but unwilling to invest in it? Did they adjust their schedule to prioritize prayer? Or did they fit God into whatever time was left over after work, entertainment, and sleep? Sacrifice reveals seriousness, and the spirit realm responds to seriousness. The second anchor is consistency. Consistency shows the spirit realm you're not playing games. You didn't just get emotional on December 31st at watch night service when the atmosphere was charged and the prophets were declaring and everyone was shouting. You're committed, you're steady, you're in this for the long haul. You understand that spiritual warfare is a marathon, not a sprint. This means you pray every day in January, not just January 1st, not just when you feel like it, not just when circumstances remind you. Every single day, same time if possible, same intensity, same focus. You don't let the fire cool, you don't let the momentum drop, you don't let excuses creep in, you don't say, I'm tired today, or I'll pray double tomorrow, or God understands I'm busy. You keep the declarations alive until they become your reality. When we saw a Christian maintaining their January 1st fire all through January, we backed off. Sometimes as early as January 10th, we would pull our assignments back. Because we knew the declaration had rooted, it was anchored, it wasn't going anywhere. The person had proven they were serious, and fighting them would be a waste of our resources. But when we saw a Christian start strong on January 1st, pray powerfully on January 2nd, then skip January 3rd because they were tired, pray lightly on January 4th, skip January 5th completely, and by January 7th, they were back to their old routine, we celebrated. Because we knew that declaration was already dying. The anchor never set, the roots never went deep, the fire never became a lifestyle. Let me give you a specific example. In 2018, I monitored 2 sisters from the same family, same church, same watch night service, same prophetic words. Both declared financial breakthrough for 2018. Sister Adesi started a 14-day fast. Good start, prayed powerfully on January 1st and 2nd. Then on January 3rd, her friend invited her to a party. She went, broke her fast early, skipped her prayer time because she came home late. January 4th, she was tired from the party. Prayed for 10 minutes instead of her usual hour. January 5th, she forgot completely. By January 7th, her January fire was completely cold. Sister Ngozi, her younger sister, also started a 14-day fast, prayed 2 hours on January 1st, 2 hours on January 2nd. On January 3rd, the same friend invited her to the same party. She said no, stayed home, prayed her 2 hours, completed her fast, prayed every single day through January without missing once. By December 2018, Sister Adesi was still struggling financially. Same job, same salary, same problems. Sister Ngozi had gotten a promotion, started a side business, and tripled her income. Same family, same genes, same church. Same starting point, different anchor, different result. That's consistency. It's not about perfection, it's about persistence. It's about refusing to quit when the emotion fades and the routine sets in. The third anchor is alignment. Alignment means your actions match your declarations. You don't just declare financial breakthrough while remaining lazy. You don't just declare promotion while doing mediocre work. You don't just declare healthy relationships while staying toxic. You align your behavior with your words. This is what most Christians miss. They want breakthrough without change. They want God to do everything while they do nothing. But that's not how anchoring works. Your actions are the soil. Your declarations are the seeds. When they align, growth is inevitable. I'll give you an example from my own life. In 2019, I was still in the coven, but I was starting to question things. A Christian woman I knew, Sister Patience, made a declaration that caught my attention. On January 1st, she declared, "This is my year of financial independence. I will not borrow money. I will not beg. God will supply every need before it arises." A bold declaration, but I'd heard Christians make bold declarations before. They usually faded fast, but Sister Patience didn't fade. She started a 21-day fast from January 1st to January 21st. That's Anchor 1, sacrifice. She prayed every single morning at 5 a.m. for the entire month of January. That's Anchor 2, consistency. And she changed her spending habits, cut unnecessary expenses, started a small business, worked harder than ever. That's Anchor 3, alignment. By March, her business was thriving. By June, she'd paid off debt. By December, she was completely financially independent, exactly as she'd declared. I was stunned. I asked her, "How did you do this?" What she said, "I didn't do anything. God did it. But I had to anchor my declaration. Words without works are dead. Faith without action is powerless. I declared it. Then I participated in it." That word, participate. She didn't just declare and wait. She participated. She became an active partner with God in manifesting her declaration. That's the law of declaration anchoring. And here's what's critical for you to understand. If you make New Year declarations without anchoring them, you're wasting the most powerful prayer window of the year. You're throwing seeds on concrete. And by February, you'll wonder why nothing grew. But if you anchor your declarations with sacrifice, consistency, and alignment, you're not just hoping for breakthrough. You're legislating it. You're setting it in stone. And that brings us to the third law, the one most Christians completely ignore. The third law is the law of sustained momentum. This law states that spiritual victories require sustained pressure. You can't pray powerfully for 7 days and then coast. You can't start strong and then fade, because the spirit realm doesn't reward initial effort. It rewards sustained momentum. And this is where most Christians lose their year. They start January like lions. Prayers at midnight, declarations at dawn, fasting, worshiping, decreeing. But by February, they're back to normal. The fire cools, the intensity drops, the momentum dies. And when momentum dies, the year dies with it. Let me tell you what we did in the coven. We knew we couldn't stop Christians in January. They were too fired up, too determined, too covered in oil from watch night service. So we didn't try to stop them in January. We just waited for February. Because we knew from 16 years of observation that 90% of Christians lose their momentum by February 5th. The first week of February is when the New Year fire dies. Why? Because reality sets in. In January, everything is new. There's excitement, there's hope, there's anticipation. But by February, the bills are still there. The job is still stressful, the marriage is still hard, and the emotional high of the new year has worn off. So Christians stop praying, they stop fasting. They stopped declaring. They coast. And that's when we struck. We didn't need to create new attacks. We just revived the old ones. The same assignments that were blocked in January became effective in February because the Christian had dropped their guard. The same financial attacks that bounced off in January stuck in February because the prayer cover was gone. The same confusion that couldn't penetrate in January walked right in during February because the momentum had stopped. This is the law of sustained momentum. Spiritual warfare is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And marathons are won not by starting fast, but by maintaining pace. I'll give you an example. In 2017, we monitored 2 Christians. Let's call them Brother Emeka and Brother Chidi, both from the same church. Both prayed powerfully in January. Both declared breakthrough. Both fasted. Brother Emeka maintained his momentum. He kept praying every morning through February, March, April. He kept fasting 1 day a week. He kept his declarations alive. He treated every month like January. Brother Chidi stopped. He had a strong January, but by February 10th, he was back to his old rhythm. Occasional prayers, inconsistent fasting, coasting on the January fire. By June, The difference was staggering. Brother Emeka had gotten a promotion. His finances were stable. His family was thriving. His year was exactly what he'd declared. Brother Chidi was stuck. Same job, same struggles, same frustrations. He kept saying, "I prayed so hard in January. Why is nothing happening?" The answer was simple. He started strong but didn't sustain it. Starting strong opens the door. Sustaining it keeps the door open. And here's what most Christians don't realize. The enemy doesn't fight you hardest in January. He fights you hardest in February through April. Because that's when you're most likely to quit. That's when momentum dies. That's when declarations fade. If he can get you to stop in February, he doesn't need to fight you the rest of the year. You've already defeated yourself. But if you sustain your momentum past April, you're unstoppable. Because by May, your declarations have become your lifestyle. By June, your breakthrough is inevitable. By December, you're living exactly what you declared. That's the law of sustained momentum. So how do you sustain momentum? 3 things. First, schedule it. Don't rely on feelings. Don't wait until you're inspired. Build prayer, fasting, and declaration into your schedule like you schedule work. Make it non-negotiable. Second, track it. Write down what you declared. Review it weekly. Celebrate small wins. This keeps the vision alive and the fire burning. Third, adjust, but don't stop. If your January rhythm isn't sustainable long-term, adjust it. Pray at a different time. Fast differently. But don't stop. Never stop. Because the moment you stop, the enemy knows he's won. Now these 3 laws work together. You can't use one without the others. You can pray at the right time with the wrong anchoring and it won't work. You can anchor your declarations but fail to sustain them and they'll fade. You can sustain effort in the wrong season and you'll waste energy. But when you align all 3 laws together, you become unstoppable. Let me tell you exactly how we identified which Christians would have breakthrough years and which would struggle. Every December, Mama Blessing would gather the council and assign each of us a church to monitor. Our job was to watch their watch night service, track their January prayers, and report back. We weren't looking for who prayed the loudest. We weren't looking for who cried the most. We were looking for 3 specific things. First, we looked for Christians who understood timing. Did they start their prayers before January 1st, or did they wait until midnight? The ones who started on December 28th or 29th, we marked as dangerous. They understood the window. They weren't just following tradition. They were strategic. The ones who only prayed on January 1st, we marked as manageable. They had faith but no strategy. Second, we looked for Christians who anchored their declarations. Did they back their words with fasting? Did they give offerings? Did they commit to specific actions? The ones who declared breakthrough and then started a 21-day fast, we marked as threats. Their declarations had weight. The ones who declared breakthrough and then went home to sleep, we marked as easy targets. Their declarations would fade within weeks. Third, we looked for Christians who sustained their fire past February. We'd check back in mid-February. Were they still praying every morning? Were they still decreeing? Were they still fasting? The ones who maintained their January intensity, we backed off completely. We knew we couldn't break them. Their year was locked. The ones who had cooled down, we attacked, because we knew their God was down. This system was devastatingly accurate. By February 15th, we could predict with 90% accuracy which Christians would have breakthrough years and which would struggle, not because of their faith, not because of God's favor, but because of how they participated in spiritual laws. The ones who understood timing, anchoring, and momentum had unstoppable years. The ones who didn't struggled all year and couldn't figure out why. And here's the part that broke my heart when I finally understood it. God wanted to bless all of them. Heaven was ready to release breakthrough to every single one, but spiritual laws require participation. You can't just believe, you have to align. It's like a farmer. God sends the rain, God gives the seed, God provides the soil. But the farmer has to plant. The farmer has to water. The farmer has to weed. If the farmer just sits and prays for a harvest without planting, there's no harvest. Not because God didn't provide, but because the farmer didn't participate. That's what I saw year after year. Christians with powerful prayers, beautiful declarations, and strong faith, missing their breakthrough, not because God wasn't willing, but because they didn't participate in the laws that release it. And I was part of the system exploiting that gap. Until 2020. In 2020, Mama Blessing assigned me to monitor a church in Aba, large church, maybe 1,200 members, very active praise and worship department. Lots of prayer warriors who actually knew how to fight spiritually, not just the kind who shout loud but have no real power. One woman stood out immediately, Sister Ngozi. She was maybe 45, a widow who had lost her husband 3 years earlier in a car accident. She ran a small provision shop on Ezekwe Road, the kind of shop that hundreds of other women run across Aba. Nothing special about the location. Nothing unique about her products. The kind of business that barely makes enough to survive, let alone thrive. I marked her as a standard Christian at first glance. Faithful, attending every service. Prayerful, always in the prayer meetings. But nothing special. Nothing that suggested she would become the one Christian I couldn't touch that entire year. She declared on January 1st at the church's watch night service, "This is my year of uncommon favor. Doors that were closed will open. Provision that was blocked will flow. Opportunities I didn't apply for will find me. My business will thrive beyond my imagination. This year, I will not beg, I will not borrow, I will not struggle. God's abundance will overwhelm me." Good declaration, strong words, full of faith. But I'd heard declarations like that 1,000 times. Beautiful words on December 31st that faded to disappointment by March. I wasn't worried about Sister Ngozi, or so I thought. Then she did something that immediately caught my attention and sent alerts through our monitoring system. She started a 40-day fast. Not a Daniel fast where you just avoid certain foods and feel spiritual. A complete fast from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. every single day from January 1st to February 9th. 40 days. Water only during fasting hours. No food, no snacks, no cheating. That's Anchor 1. Sacrifice. Real, costly, uncomfortable sacrifice. She prayed for 2 hours every morning before opening her shop. I watched her from the second heavens. She would wake up at 4 a.m. before sunrise when Abba was still dark and quiet. She would light a candle in her small apartment, open her Bible, and begin to pray. Not rushed prayers, not distracted prayers, deep intercession. She would read scripture aloud, declare it over her life, claim the promises, bind the opposition, release the breakthrough. For 2 full hours, every single morning, no exceptions. That's Anchor 2, consistency. Unwavering, daily, disciplined consistency, and she started doing something unusual that I'd never seen a Christian do with such precision. Every evening after closing her shop at 7 p.m., she would stand in the doorway and thank God for breakthrough she hadn't seen yet. She would look at her empty shop, the slow sales, the few customers, and she would declare out loud, "Father, I thank you that my business is thriving. I thank you that customers are coming. I thank you that sales are increasing. I thank you for the overflow that's already mine in the spirit realm." She would declare her business thriving when sales were still slow, when she barely made 3,000 naira that day, when other shop owners around her were complaining about the economy. She would praise God for open doors when everything looked closed, when customers passed her shop and went to competitors, when suppliers were demanding cash up front that she didn't have. She would worship God for provision when her bank account showed barely enough for next week's stock, when her rent was coming due, when common sense said she should panic. That's Anchor 3, alignment. She aligned her faith with her declaration even when circumstances contradicted everything she was saying. She refused to let what she saw override what she declared. She treated the spiritual reality as more real than the physical reality. This is what made her dangerous. This is what made her different from 99% of Christians I'd monitored over 16 years. By mid-January, I tried to disrupt her. This was standard protocol. We always tested Christians around January 15th to see if their anchors were real or just emotional. First attack, confusion. I sent spiritual confusion into her shop. Customers who came in with clear intentions to buy suddenly changed their minds at the last moment. They would pick up items, bring them to the counter, then say, "Actually, let me come back later," and leave empty-handed. This happened 7 times in one day. 7 potential sales all evaporated at the point of transaction. Any normal shop owner would have been frustrated, discouraged, questioning what was wrong, but Sister Ngozi didn't react with discouragement. She closed her shop at noon, went to the back room, and prayed for an hour. I heard her prayers from the second heavens. "Father, I thank you that no weapon formed against my business prospers. I cancel every confusion. I bind every spirit of poverty. I command customers to come with clear minds and open wallets. My sales are blessed in Jesus' name." Then she went back out and continued working with joy, actual joy, not fake prosperity, gospel joy. Real, deep joy that came from somewhere unshakable. Second attack, equipment failure. Small things went wrong. Her generator broke down, costing 15,000 naira to repair. Her phone, which she used for business calls, stopped working, requiring a replacement. Her cash drawer jammed. Her weighing scale malfunctioned. All in 1 week, all requiring money she didn't have. Most Christians would have panicked, would have complained to their prayer partners about how the enemy was attacking, would have felt like their January declarations were failing. Sister Ngozi fasted longer that week. Instead of 6 p.m., she extended her fast to 7 p.m. She prayed harder, woke up earlier, declared louder. I watched her scrape together money to fix the generator, then immediately thanked God that the money came. She saw the attacks, but she refused to see them as defeats. She called them confirmations that breakthrough was coming because the enemy only fights valuable targets. Third attack, financial pressure. I orchestrated unexpected bills. Her landlord demanded 6 months' rent upfront, citing some policy change. That's 480,000 naira she didn't have. The supplier she'd been buying from for 3 years suddenly demanded cash payment only, no more credit. Her church asked for a special offering for a project. Multiple financial pressures from multiple directions, all designed to make her feel overwhelmed, to make her doubt her declaration, to make her think maybe this wasn't her year after all. She called a prayer meeting with 3 other prayer warriors from her church. They prayed all night on January 24th. I was there in the second heavens listening. She didn't pray for the money, she prayed for God's wisdom. She didn't beg for breakthrough. She declared that breakthrough was already hers, and she was walking into it. She didn't ask God why this was happening. She thanked him that he was teaching her how to stand in the face of pressure. By morning, one of the other prayer warriors offered to lend her part of the money interest-free. Another sister knew someone who knew the landlord and negotiated the 6 months down to 3. The supplier, for reasons nobody could explain, called the next day and said she could continue with credit. The attack that should have broken her actually connected her with provision. That's when I knew I was dealing with something beyond my level. By February, I was frustrated. Nothing was working. By March, I was shocked. Her shop started thriving, new customers, bulk orders, referrals from nowhere. By June, she'd expanded. Rented a bigger space, hired staff. By December, her business had tripled. I couldn't understand it. I reported back to Mama Blessing, "There's something different about this woman. I can't touch her. Every attack bounces back." Mama Blessing laughed. "You've encountered a Christian who understands the laws. When they align timing, anchoring, and momentum, we have no power. Leave her alone." But I couldn't leave her alone. I was obsessed. How did she know? Who taught her? So in December 2020, I went to her shop, not to attack, to ask. I pretended to be a customer. We talked. I asked about her business growth. She said, "It's not me, it's God." But I learned something. Prayer is partnership. God provides the power, but I have to participate in the process. And I learned that the new year is a sacred window. If I get January right, the whole year flows. "How did you learn this?" I asked. "A prophet taught me," she said. "He said there are spiritual laws. Most Christians ignore them and then wonder why their prayers aren't working. But when you align with the laws, you don't just pray, you legislate." That word again, legislate. Not beg, not hope, legislate. I left her shop shaken. That night, I couldn't sleep. For 16 years, I'd used these laws for evil, but Sister Ngozi used them for breakthrough. Same laws, different alignment. And for the first time, I realized something terrifying. If these laws work, if they're real, if they're this powerful, then what I'd been doing for 16 years wasn't just witchcraft, it was spiritual legislation. I'd been legislating curses, poverty, and confusion into people's lives, which meant Christians could legislate breakthrough, favor, and abundance into their lives using the exact same laws. The only difference was alignment. I was aligning with darkness. They could align with light, and if they did, I had no power to stop them. That realization broke me. January 3rd, 2021. I was supposed to attend the New Year's Strategic Council. Mama Blessing had already sent the invitation. 32 women, same compound in Owerri, same rituals. But I couldn't go. Sister Ngozi's words kept repeating in my mind. Prayer is partnership. God provides the power. But I have to participate in the process. I realized I'd spent 16 years participating in darkness. What would happen if I participated in light? That night, alone in my apartment in Owerri, I knelt down. I didn't know how to pray like Christians. I'd spent 16 years blocking prayers, not making them, so I just spoke honestly. God, if you're real, if you hear me, I want out. I've done terrible things. I've hurt people. I've used your laws against your people. But if Sister Ngozi is right, if prayer is partnership, I want to partner with you, not against you. Nothing dramatic happened. No lightning, no angels, no voices. But something shifted. The heaviness I'd carried for 16 years, the weight of every curse I'd spoken, every attack I'd coordinated, every prayer I'd blocked, it started lifting. And for the first time in 16 years, I felt light. The next morning, I called Mama Blessing. I'm not coming back, I said. She was silent for a long moment. Then she said, You know what happens to people who leave? I know, I said, but I'm not afraid anymore. Because I'm going to participate in the same laws you taught me, except I'm aligning them with heaven, not hell, and you can't stop that. She hung up. The attacks started immediately. Nightmares, financial pressure, sickness, confusion. Everything the coven had in its arsenal, they threw at me. But I remembered Sister Ngozi. I started a 40-day fast. I prayed every morning for 2 hours. I declared my freedom. I anchored it with sacrifice, consistency, and alignment. And by February 10th, the attack stopped. Not because the coven gave up, but because I'd learned something they didn't expect. When you participate in spiritual laws from the side of light, darkness has no jurisdiction. When you align with heaven, hell has no access. When you legislate from the throne room, the second heavens can't override you. By March, I found a church, a real one, not the religious show churches. A place where they understood spiritual warfare, where they knew how to pray, where they taught people to participate in God's laws, not just hope for His intervention. And in that church, I learned something that completed my transformation. The laws I'd used for evil weren't demonic inventions. They were God's laws. He created them. He established them. He designed them to govern how heaven and earth interact. Darkness just hijacked them. But when Christians take them back, when Christians understand them, when Christians participate in them properly, darkness doesn't stand a chance. That's what I'm doing now. I'm taking back what darkness stole. I'm teaching Christians the laws I learned in the coven, not so they can manipulate God, but so they can partner with Him effectively. Because God is not a genie, He's a king, and kings operate through laws. When you understand the laws, you don't just pray, you legislate. So let me give you the exact activation protocol. If you want your prayers to be unstoppable in the new year, if you want 2025 to be your breakthrough year, if you want to participate in God's laws instead of being subject to darkness's manipulation, here's what you do. Step 1. Start before January 1st. Don't wait for midnight on December 31st. Don't wait for the countdown. Don't wait for the fireworks. Start your New Year prayers on December 28th. 3 full days before the new year officially begins. This gives you a 10-day window, December 28th to January 6th. Some churches and prophets teach December 27th to January 6th, which is also powerful. The key is starting before the transition, not just at the transition. Why 10 days? Because it covers the entire transition period. You're not just praying for the new year. You're sealing the old year properly and opening the new one with authority. You're closing doors that need to close and opening doors that need to open. You're binding what needs to be bound and loosing what needs to be loosed. Think of it like a relay race. In a relay, the incoming runner doesn't just hand off the baton at the line. They start running together, matching pace, ensuring a smooth transfer. That's what you're doing spiritually. You're ensuring a smooth transition from 2024 to 2025. From the old to the new, from where you were to where you're going. Pray every morning from December 28th through January 6th. Minimum 2 hours. If you can only do 1 hour, do 1 hour. If you can do 3, do 3. But be consistent. Same time every day. Don't pray 2 hours on December 28th, then 30 minutes on December 29th, then skip December 30th. That's not consistency. That's emotion. Not rushed prayers, not distracted prayers. Not prayers while checking your phone or thinking about work. Deep intercession, focus, intensity, engagement. Declare your year. Not vague declarations, specific ones. Name your territories. What areas of life are you claiming? Finance, health, marriage, business, ministry. Name them. Claim your breakthrough. What exactly do you want to see happen? New job, debt paid, house purchased, relationship restored. Say it clearly. This activates the law of spiritual timing. You're positioning yourself in the window of exponential power. You're treating the moment as sacred, not casual. You're legislating, not just hoping. Step 2. Anchor your declarations. Make your declarations specific, not vague, not generic. Not the kind of declarations that could mean anything or nothing. Don't say, God bless me this year. That's too vague. Bless you how? In what area? With what result? Don't say, let this be my breakthrough year. Breakthrough in what? When? How will you know it happened? Instead, be surgical, be detailed, be clear. Say, God, I declare financial breakthrough this year. Doors of provision open in my career. I am promoted to the next level by June. Opportunities I didn't apply for find me. Favor that defies logic surrounds me. My income increases by 50%. I get out of debt completely. My savings grow substantially. I am a lender, not a borrower. Jed or say, God, I declare healing and health this year. Every sickness in my body is healed. Every pain disappears. My energy returns. My strength increases. My body functions as you designed it. Medical reports confirm what you have done. I walk in divine health all year. Or say, God, I declare relationship breakthrough this year. If I am single, the right person finds me by March. If I am married, my marriage is restored, strengthened, filled with joy. Every wall comes down. Every hurt heals. Every pattern breaks. We become the couple you intended. Specific, clear, measurable. That's how you declare. Then anchor it with something that costs you, with something that proves you're serious, with something that shows heaven this isn't just religious talk. Fast from December 28th to January 10th, 14 days, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Water only during fasting hours, no food, no juice, no excuses. If you physically cannot do 14 days because of medical conditions, pregnancy, or legitimate health reasons, do 7 days. If you cannot do 7, do 3. But do something. Even 1 day of consecrated fasting is better than none. The point isn't to impress God with your willpower. The point is to show the spirit realm that you're aligning your flesh with your faith. You're bringing your physical body under the authority of your spiritual declaration. You're saying, my comfort is secondary to my breakthrough. Then commit to consistent prayer through all of January, every single day of January, 31 days, same time if possible. Even if it's just 30 minutes on some days, even if it's early morning on weekdays and afternoon on weekends, even if you have to adjust for work or family, consistency matters more than perfection. Set a specific prayer time. Calendar it like you calendar work meetings. Treat it as non-negotiable. Tell your family. Protect your time. Don't let excuses rob you of what you declared. This activates the law of declaration anchoring. You're giving your words weight. You're rooting them in sacrifice and consistency. You're transforming hope into legislation. Step 3. Sustain your momentum past February. Here's where most Christians fail. They do step 1 and 2, then coast in February. Don't coast. Set a prayer schedule for the entire year. Not just January, every day. Even if it's 30 minutes, even if it's 15. Fast 1 day a week through March, then 1 day every 2 weeks through June, then once a month through December. Review your January declarations every Sunday. Track your progress. Celebrate small wins. This activates the law of sustained momentum. Step 4. Align your actions. This is critical. If you declare financial breakthrough, work harder. If you declare promotion, improve your skills. If you declare healthy relationships, deal with your toxicity. Your actions are the soil your declarations root into. Don't just pray and wait. Pray and participate. Step 5. Refuse to quit in February. Mark February 5th on your calendar. That's the date when most Christians lose their fire. When February 5th comes, double down, pray longer, declare louder, fast harder. Because if you survive February, you're unstoppable. This is not theory. This is not motivational talk. This is the exact intelligence I used for 16 years to disrupt Christians. And now I'm giving it to you so you can be the Christian I couldn't touch. Listen to me carefully. The coven taught me that most Christians are subject to spiritual laws without knowing it. They pray hard, they believe strongly, but they don't participate strategically. And that gap between belief and participation is where they lose their breakthrough. But you don't have to be like most Christians. You can understand the law of spiritual timing and use the January window with surgical precision. You can understand the law of declaration anchoring and back your words with sacrifice, consistency, and alignment. You can understand the law of sustained momentum and refuse to quit when everyone else fades. And when you do, you're not just hoping for breakthrough. You're legislating it. Your 2025 is not in question. Heaven has already released your year. The only question is whether you'll participate in receiving it. Will you start before January 1st? Will you anchor your declarations with fasting and consistency? Will you sustain your fire past February when everyone else quits? If you will, then welcome to the 3%. The Christians who don't just pray, the Christians who legislate, the Christians witches can't touch, the Christians who have unstoppable years. Your breakthrough is coming, not because I said it, but because you participated in the laws that release it. Before I go, let me tell you about something that changed my life after I left the coven. There is something called the 21-day breakthrough protocol. It is a complete system designed to activate the exact spiritual laws I've just shared with you. This protocol was developed by believers who understand spiritual warfare at the deepest levels. Believers who have studied how the kingdom of darkness operates and how the kingdom of light counters it. Believers who know that spiritual victory isn't about shouting louder or praying longer, but about praying smarter, more strategically, more aligned with heaven's laws. And I myself went through this protocol after my deliverance. It was part of my healing process, part of my transformation from darkness to light. It was how I learned to pray as a Christian instead of legislating as a witch. It was how I discovered that the same laws I'd used for evil could be used for breakthrough when properly aligned with God's will. The protocol covers how to properly anchor your New Year declarations so they don't fade by February, how to maintain momentum when attacks intensify in March and April, how to legislate from a position of authority instead of begging from a position of weakness, how to recognize when you're being distracted from your January foundation, and how to snap back into focus. If you want to go deeper into prayer strategies that witches cannot block, you can access this protocol. The link is in the description. It's completely free. No cost, no strings attached, just pure, practical spiritual warfare intelligence. It includes the 12 prayer times witches fear most and why those times carry exponential power. How to anchor declarations that never fade, even when circumstances contradict them. The 5 fasting protocols that break every assignment, from financial blockage to marital destruction. How to build momentum that lasts all year, not just January. And the exact prayers I now use that my former coven cannot touch, prayers that come from understanding how the second heavens operate and how to bypass them completely. This isn't about adding more religious activity to your life. It's not about making you busier or more exhausted. It's about understanding the laws that govern spiritual breakthrough and learning how to participate in them effectively. It's about working smarter in the spirit realm, not just harder. When Sister Ningoi told me that prayer is partnership, she unlocked something in my mind. God provides the power, but we have to participate in the process. He sets the laws, but we have to align with them. He releases the breakthrough, but we have to position ourselves to receive it. That's what this protocol teaches: participation, alignment, positioning. Your prayers should be unstoppable, not because you shout the loudest, not because you cry the hardest, but because you understand the laws and you participate in them with precision. And now you know how to make them exactly that. God bless you, and welcome to your unstoppable year.